I want to share a little bit more about handling disagreements or problems with biological families. I got a lot of questions in my question box about this, and so I want to dive a little bit deeper and hopefully offer some ideas to try. And by the way, my way of doing things is not the only way, and so it depends a lot on your personality and how you just operate in conversation in difficult moments. So keep that in mind. So those first interactions, if it's over the phone or conference call, I have videos about this, but I usually start friendly and I start confident with an open mind. And so I'm Laura. I am a foster parent. Your kids are here. Very quickly identify their kids are in my care and they're okay. And I usually will add in, I have a lot of experience with toddlers, for example. And so I have a lot of toys and they've been playing a lot with them. Kind of give them a quick little snapshot of what they're doing and, what care you're providing and what experience you bring to the table. But I never want to come off as a know-it-all because I don't know this child. They're a stranger, and you are speaking and opening a relationship with their parent who knows them the best. And so as much as I will try to say, I have great experience, I have everything they need, I want to make sure that they know that I am also open to their feedback. So I will have questions prepared. Have at least 5 questions. You may only get to 1 or none in those first few interactions, but have questions prepared, because what that does is it shows that you are open to learning and you're open to a back and forth communication, collaborating, and co-parenting. So questions can be like, what are their favorite kinds of foods? What snacks do they like? What do they like for breakfast? Do you have a favorite story that you like to read to them? Do they have any hobbies and interests? I have a list for you that I will share of questions to ask. Typically, the primary focus of those initial first calls is, when can I see my child? When can I talk to them? And so all of that is important to prioritize as well. I get them on the phone as quickly as possible, and then maybe talk about these details after. If it's in person, I don't want to sit and chat and have their kid right there. Let them have their visit. Afterwards, I'll make a comment. Hey, I'd love to chat for a few minutes. Would it be okay to do that in the visit? I just have a few questions. Another thing you can do is you can write down your questions and share it as a journal. Now, if questions don't get answered or there's no remarks in the journal, the first few times totally is fine. I would keep going. Again, their parents are focusing on their child on the visit. They're still getting into the rhythm of things and probably still very much freaking out, because this is, obviously a very dramatic and crisis situation when a child is removed from your care. Okay, so as things settle down into a routine, you'll establish some type of contact. So maybe you're sending a journal back and forth and, sharing updates as what's going on with the child and photos, and maybe they're providing some feedback back to you. Maybe you have phone calls, or you're just seeing each other at drop-offs and pickups. It kind of depends. But time passes, right? We know that months and even, years can go by. And so, of course, disagreements will come up. That is natural of any relationship. And so I usually take more of a professional lens to these situations. So if I have a disagreement with a colleague or someone I'm working on a project with, I will approach it in a very similar way. So I always try to remain open and empathetic and really understand the needs and why these concerns are coming up, and maybe what I've done wrong to set up this relationship or set up the situation. And again, going back to putting myself in their position and considering what they're going through as well. I will add that spending the time to understand what potentially the parents are going through is going to be incredibly helpful to you. So I recommend to all foster parents to get some type of implicit bias or unconscious bias training. Now, in my county, it's required of us. I don't know if that's the case for other counties. If it's not, I highly suggest you seeking out that training. In addition to that, seek out training that could be related to what's going on. So substance abuse, homelessness, domestic violence, There's a lot of really nuanced training that you can get to help understand what's going on in their life, so that you can kind of put everything into perspective and into context. Okay, so typically if there's an argument, if everyone is calm and professional, that's just how we manage it. I ask questions, I repeat back what I think the problem is to make sure we have communicated it properly, and then I report back to the parent what I plan to do differently or how I can address it. And I also report to the social worker, and I tell them I'm going to, just so everyone can be in the loop as to what the change is. So for example, if it's something small, the parent says, their shoes are getting too small. Great, thank you. I noticed that as well. We have new shoes. The child doesn't want to wear them, so we're working on finding others that are better suited. I will have new shoes for them within the next 24 hours. This is just an example, but this is a small thing. It's remedied, it's handled. Larger concerns can come up, such as, not wanting the child to go to a certain school or preschool, or not wanting a certain assessment, an accusation, these types of things that become more and more elevated and less like day to day. I always loop in the social worker and request a team meeting or request that social worker intervention. So I'll say things like, okay, totally hear you. I'll repeat back so I know exactly what they mean. And I'll say things like, this is something that the social worker will have to manage, or we'll have to talk to them about it. This is beyond what I can what I have control over. And let's loop with them in, and we'll talk about it as a group. If things are dangerous, or you are concerned about your safety, or you're worried, definitely pause all communication. You can say, I'm going to stop communication here, and bring in the social worker. You don't need to continue a text or a phone call, or if it's an in-person situation, you can leave. If visit needs to be canceled, it needs to be canceled. And, if the social worker disagrees later that you canceled it, okay, you've learned. But right then you need to ensure your safety and the child's safety. So an immediate action needs to occur. If problems still persist, there's like individual things you can do, such as saying things like, I feel like we've gotten off on the wrong foot. I'd love to start over. Or, this is definitely miscommunication. I'd like to do a reset and try again from the beginning. That's, in my opinion, a professional way to deal with the problem, to talk it through, and to try again, and acknowledge everyone's feelings in the situation. And I do try to rephrase and rethink the situation. If there are bigger problems, especially when safety is concerned for the child or yourself, definitely involve supervisors, attorneys, and other advocates, and make sure you're putting everything in writing. I will also communicate to the parent, I'm going to get the team involved. I will email them now, just so everything is out in the air and transparent. They don't think that you're trying to do something behind their back. I'm always very open about what I'm communicating and how I'm communicating, so that we're all on the same page. Now, ultimately, if me and the parent are not communicating properly and not resolving, the social worker may intervene, or the case manager may intervene and stop that contact. Obviously, that is disappointing when that happens, and that's not the goal. But sometimes in certain situations, if something is not productive and it's taking away from the progress of the case, or it's harming the children, then it should not continue until circumstances have changed. Perhaps you, as a foster parent, need additional training. I include myself in all of this. I always seek out additional training if there's something I'm not fulfilling or doing correctly. Perhaps the parent as well also is in therapy, or in anger management, or is in, a substance abuse program. There's a lot of steps and a lot of circumstances that can change, and you can always try again in the future. And I do recommend, as things change and the case progresses and you're moving closer to reunification, I always recommend restarting or trying again, maybe with a different strategy, to reconnect and reestablish that connection with the child and parent as well. Of course, if you need one-on-one support or just would like my ideas on things to try, you can book a chat with me. You can DM me on Patreon. I am here in support.